Hello everyone.
Hi.
I'm Paul Kirk. A lot of people call me Captain. I don't know why. But yeah, thanks a lot for coming tonight. I really appreciate it. Because usually I kind of struggle with things like this. I've got to be honest, I'm not great with people, particularly women. And yes, Donald, women are people too. But yeah, I am terrible with women. And I think a big part of the reason for that is because as a teenager, I was always far more interested in computers than I was in girls. But actually, having a computer is a lot like having a girlfriend, I'd imagine. For example, you never forget your first one. My first was called the ZX Spectrum, and she was a beauty. A sexy 8-bit processor and 128 kilobytes of pure, unadulterated RAM. Oh yeah, the ZX Spectrum. I just couldn't keep my hands off her. I just loved turning her on. Thanks. But my love for my ZX Spectrum was a forbidden love. I always tried to hide my passion, but sometimes I just couldn't conceal it. I had to play with her. I had to play with her everywhere. I had to play with her in the living room. I had to play with her in my bedroom. I had to play with her wherever I could. And I think that's why my parents say they always knew I was somewhere on the spectrum. But yeah, I'm in science now, and getting into science has been really good for me. It's really, helped. I mean, I know a lot of people think that science is not their cup of tea, but I think that's because people don't really understand what science is about. You see, science is the name of a government initiative for helping socially awkward people find work. It's absolutely true. Science, as we now know it, was invented by Margaret Thatcher on the 5th of August 1982 as a way of making people like me give back to society. I mean, NHS glasses and inhalers don't pay for themselves. But yeah, actually I was really lucky because even before getting into science, I received a lot of support from my school to help me with my issues. I mean, I know a lot of people like me are often bullied at school, but I just did not have any of that. I mean, sure, there was the odd bit of name calling, but just the usual stuff like Four Eyes and Boffin and Spods, also geek, nerd, ginge, ginger tosser, ginger nuts, ginger bollocks, ginger, the ginger minger, Kirky the turkey, Kirky Bo Berkey, Kirk the Burke, Kirk the jerk, Pauline Quirk? And cruelly, most cruelly of all, Kirky computer fucker. It was just one time. But okay, sure, there was some name calling and the odd bit of what I now prefer to refer to as lavatorial submersion. But my school counsellor insisted that she and the other teachers were just trying out a radical form of aversion therapy. Okay, so thinking about it, maybe school wasn't that great, and actually the aversion therapy wasn't even the worst part. There were also these really weird group humiliation therapies, and I've tried to suppress most of my memories of those, but I do remember having projectiles thrown at me and being forced to stand naked under a freezing cold shower, and a man who wore shorts no matter what the season, and 2 ominous, terrifying letters which even now strike fear into my heart. P.E. I never did find out what those letters really stood for, but for me, they stood for pain and exclusion. Okay, so clearly the therapies at school didn't work out for me. So at the age of 18, I was sent off to an institution, a scientific institution. Now, most people are able to get out of these places in 3 or 4 years, but some more severe cases can take twice that, and some really sad, unfortunate individuals can end up stuck in science for life. It's beginning to look like I might be such a lifer, particularly how my career in stand-up is going. Incidentally, you might be wondering how it is that someone like me ends up doing something like this. You see, the truth is that I can be a bit literal, and so I misunderstood what my girlfriend meant when she described my career in science as laughable. I say girlfriend. She prefers the term boss, but that's just this funny joke we have between us because we work together and she's constantly telling me what to do, and because she pays my salary, and because we have a purely professional relationship, the parameters of which are set out in a formal contract of employment. But yeah, okay, so I'm socially awkward. You can probably tell by now. But actually, that could present a real problem for people like me, people who the tabloids sometimes like to refer to as scientists. You see, the government insists that scientists demonstrate their need for continued funding by taking part in activities known as public engagement. Yeah, that's right. The way our government makes all the socially awkward people justify the money that's being spent on them is by forcing them to interact with other human beings. What kind of a sick, sadistic system is that? And even putting to one side scientists' natural shyness, it can actually be really difficult for scientists to talk about what they do sometimes. So, for example, I'm a statistician, and I'd love to be able to come up here and be funny about statistics, but I just cannot make statistics jokes. My funny stories about the standard deviation are highly variable. And my jokes about the mean and median, decidedly average. See, I can't do statistics jokes, I think we can agree. But that's okay, because I'm not just a statistician, I'm a biostatistician. And that means that I get to apply statistics to interesting problems in biology and medicine. For example, I've recently been working on retroviruses, particularly HIV. And do you know what's funny about HIV? Absolutely nothing. But weirdly, it's a bit strange because these days I actually do get a bit of a kick out of doing public engagement. And part of the reason for that is because I get to talk about what I do and to inspire the next generation of social misfits. But mostly it's to demonstrate that I can, and thereby to really stick two fingers up to those bastards I went to school with. And on that note, I'd like to end, actually, but with a little message for my school PE teacher. And I spent a long time thinking about this to get the words just right, and this is what I've come up with. Fuck you, Mr. Beige. Fuck you.